Welcome back to the garage. We got a new project here. We got roughly a 1970. I'm not sure exact year, but we'll call it a 1970 Ford F100 bump side. And we got a nice Coyote engine in it. Now, technically it's a F150 engine, but we're going to call it a Coyote engine for simplicity. I know there's differences. So we've got that, but we're also going to put a couple of snails on it. We're going to put them rear mount, and we're going to get started on that right now. First order of business is we're going to make a round tube fit into a rectangle hole. We're going to start by, first we're going to start by tightening my vise down, the swivel. So we're going to start by squishing these together. And you can use a press, a vise, you can use a hammer. And no doubt you'll see me hammering on this very soon as well. There's nothing, there's no finesse in this part at all. So we're getting closer there. Oh, getting real close. I could just about force it in there. We're a little tall here and there. So our width is pretty close. Now we're going to start hammering on these. And when I do that, it's going to flare it back out a little bit. So it's going to be a back and forth between hammering and the vise. And very soon we'll be hammering in the vise. Pretty close there. I've got a bunch of hammers on the table here. Oh, a little too much. A little bit wide. Let's crimp her back down a little bit. Let's put that in here. Make things a tad easier. So we're going to get that pretty even there. We also want to check the angle of the dangle. So that's sitting at 5 degrees off 90. And that's sitting about 2 degrees. So let's make that 0. Clamp that down. Let's show you here. So we're about 1 degree. Yeah, half a degree or so. We want to make that the same. So we've got to tap this flange down a little bit. Those are pretty close to matching. And what I got to do now is give that a tack along the inside and the outside. Well, I shouldn't say inside and outside. That would be the inside, that would be the outside, but whatever. Along each side. So I got to take this GoPro off my head before I can do any welding on here. All right, we've got a little tack on there. It's actually more than a tack. It's a pretty decent weld there. These are stainless. This is 409 stainless. So we're using stainless filler rod on there. So I put my stitch welds on the sides there. And next, this is not pretty. There's nothing pretty about this, but it works. So what we're going to do is take my hammer and take that hammer and take that hammer. I don't advise this because there's that tail of smashing two hardened pieces of hammer together can make them chip. So in that event, always put your safety squints on before you're doing any of this nonsense. But here we go. So because that's got a nice big radius on there, we're going to beat that into the corner. Straighten that out in the vise. And we'll also beat this into the corner. So while I'm beating this side is pulled back out. So I mean, it's going to be a game of stretch and tug here for a while. Doesn't take too terribly long. And keep in mind, this is actually thinning the steel out as I'm abusing it. We're going to go with a smaller hammer with a smaller radius on the ball end. We're going to lock this into the vise a little better. Also, the worst way to clean your bench off is to, use a hammer and beat on things with your vise. A much quicker, worse way to do this is to actually use a Sawzall in the vise. And that'll clean your whole bench off real quick. Okay. Now I'm hoping you can see this here. This will help. I got a light. Right in here, now we got a real nice smooth transition into that. And like I said, it does thin your sheet out here, your tube. So you got to keep that in mind. We're going to put a weld on the back side as well, not all the way around. That's a great way to induce a lot of cracking. So we're going to weld this corner around, move on to that one, and then each of these at the same time. Not at the same time, after that. So here we go. All right, we've got our corner welded there. Now to work onto this side. I'll beat this side into place here, and I'll show you that, and I'll throw a weld around there, and then I'm not going to bother recording. All right, we've got this thing beat into the corner. We're going to throw a weld on that, and I'll show you the weld all the way around after that's on there. I'm not going to record beating that into the corners into shape, welding that, because you've already seen it. I'll show you what it looks like afterwards. When they bend these elbows, see these elbows, when they go through the bender it stretches the outside of the bend much more than the inside. So when you get to this point, you can basically beat each of these into place without having to stop and weld around the corner and then beat the other corner in. So lucky enough there, we're all into place, and now I'm going to weld that up. I'll show you the finished product of that in a couple minutes. That'll be a couple seconds for you guys, but here we go. Well, there you have it. She's all welded up and around. You look way in there, there's just a tad bit of sugaring from the outside weld I put on there. Just a tad bit. It's not too bad. I did not purge this because I don't have a purge kit, and I rarely weld stainless, so I don't know, hard to justify getting a purge kit. But yeah, there's that. And let's try and take this out of the vise. Yeah, just a little reinforcement weld around each corner. That's because it's thin there from beating the hell out of it. Well, it's thin there from bending it around that radius, but it's also thin there from beating the hell out of it to stretch it into place. So there's one. And it's on the floor. I found the floor. So, and there's two. I did that one last night, but same thing. Now we got to make these fit on the truck underneath, and mount those little GT 3582s on there, and make the Coyote breathe a little better yet. We're at the point where we're going to do what everybody with a Honda loves doing and just cut the exhaust clean off of it. Didn't even get the shifter cable. Great success. Wow, where am I going to put you guys? This one gets cut back a little further. Wow. Let's see if this works. I don't know what you're going to see on this, but aside from the exhaust falling here in a second. Oh, just bent my blade. It's a brand new blade. Not a great start. And she's loose. Just got to take the mount off now. There we go. Pull the nut off. See if we can get that mount off of there. It's a tight fit. Got the solution for that. There we go. Y pipe and exhaust is off. So this portion of the exhaust is actually stainless. Same with that. I don't know what this Y pipe is. I don't know. Not important really, but that bend may come in handy a little bit in case we need it. We'll find that out. Did a lot of measuring under the truck. Over here, we've got an extra length of 5 feet of 2.5 inch tube there. That'll be an extension from the exhaust pipes that I cut off with good old Mr. Sawzall over there. Sorry, Sawzall is a trade name from Milwaukee. So reciprocating saw, DeWalt. So yeah, there's that technicality. But yeah, we cut the exhaust off. We're going to run her back here, put these elbows up, and these wastegates have to be on the back side of that elbow. A nice clean flow to the wastegate, and you know, make a 90-degree bend and then down and out. Probably dumping to atmosphere. We're not sure yet. We'll burn that bridge when I have the exhaust on there. The turbo's mounted. So what we're going to do is drill a hole for the wastegates. We're going to take our hole saw, drill a hole in it. Then we're going to pitch that drill bit back to about the same angle as the pipe. Now we're going to put our hole saw on there. It's a 1 3/4. Make sure everything's tight because they rattle around enough they like to loosen off. And I'm going to send her through pretty much full speed. I have not got a powerful drill because I don't want to break my wrists. Just like that. What I do have is a Milwaukee 1 3/4 hole saw, and this thing is an animal. Go out and buy yourself these Milwaukee hole dozers. Won't be disappointed in them. They'll chew through a lot of stuff. So that makes 2 of them. What we're going to do is put our exhaust tube in there. This is for the wastegate. And this will probably be shortened down. That's probably enough for both of these. Put our wastegate flange on there. Not that one. That's a used one. Put a wastegate flange on there. That's a nice new one. And bolt our wastegates to it. So that'll probably be, you know, realistically way over here. Keep it nice and short. What I do want to show you is, well, wastegate gasket on the floor. These wastegates So these flanges came off of somebody else's work. The wastegates look like they're brand new. Customer picked them up for a good price. So this is the nastiness that was their wastegate setup. So that was welded onto there. They had a bolt in there. You couldn't even get the bolt out of it to reuse the bolt. And these are threaded, so we kind of want to save those bolts. They're metric. Metric hardware is kind of scarce in my garage. So this is the nastiness they had on their setup, whatever it was. I don't know what it was, but I'm glad I'm not using that. They had the whole thing exhaust wrapped up, and as soon as I started peeling it off, I understand why. So there's that. There's our wastegate dump holes there. I got to clean them up. I'm gonna put the tube in there. We'll cope that tube so it matches this matches that hole nicely. And once I've got the turbos sitting in place and these positioned, you know, clocked where they need to be, I will weld the flange onto them. For now, I'm waiting on V-bands, and I've got to get that piece of tube flared on each end, cut it where I need it for the proper length, and then I can weld it on under there and still have a V-band over here, so everything is much easier to remove. So on that note, we're going to take a break, probably call her done for tonight, because I haven't got a whole lot left. Back at it on another day. I was actually out here yesterday. I didn't record anything, but yesterday we got, well, let's pull that right off here. Got our wastegate pipes welded on there. The flanges welded on to the pipe. And so that's done. Stick her back under. Come on, get in there. So that's going to be sitting about that way. That one's going to be rotated about that direction to get the turbos, you know, situated pretty equally. This is still hot. I just finished welding that, so yeah, we're good there. So we've got our turbo flange welded on and our wastegate welded on. 45-degree angle to that. Our wastegates are going to go on and dump pretty much straight to the ground. There, come on. That's a little longer one. Hard to... There we are. There we go. Yeah, wastegates are going to dump straight to ground. And off of the turbo, we're going to do a 3-inch exhaust pipe. We're going to dump that right before the back axle. And we're going to pull the wastegates apart, actually. I got one there in the bench. We're going to pull the wastegates apart and make sure there's no trash in them. No material shavings, no casting flash, just garbage. We're going to take it all apart. Now, these are some offshore gates. They were purchased used, basically never used, never ran. Well, maybe ran, but really never opened up. You got some carbon on the inside there, but like, inside is clean. So they've never had any exhaust go through them anyway. We're going to take them apart just to make sure. I'm sure they're an offshore brand wastegate. So I know I've got, oh crap, I've got a pair of Chinese version tile wastegates on my Ranger, and I've never had a problem with them. I did take them apart when they were new, and I pulled out a whole bunch of casting flash, cleaned everything up. There's filings and everything in there. I mean, these bolts aren't even tight. Like, takes minimal effort to get them out of there. I've got no idea what spring. Oh, yeah, my finger was stuck in there. I've got no idea what springs are in there. They're not a super heavy spring, but they're enough to push the gate out of the vise and pinch my finger. So we got one spring. If I had to guess, I'd say it's probably an 8-pound, maybe. I don't know. I'll find out. We're going to take this apart though and see what's in there. And actually that looks pretty good on the top side. Maybe a couple of shavings, but not bad at all. Misplaced all my Allen keys. Had to go find them. It's weird because my shop's only 16 by 24. Like, this truck takes up the whole thing. And I lose my tools in it. A couple little set screws on top of that, on top of there. So we're going to take them out, just to take the diaphragm off of there, take everything apart, and give it a good once over. And I can't find the proper Allen key here. Alright, so I found my Allen key. Got that off of there. There's your wastegate diaphragm. We're going to take these out of there. These out of there too. Pull the whole thing apart. I know on mine, I found that the O-ring was not seated properly in there, and you add compressed air, like just testing compressed air, like 10 pounds, 15 pounds, whatever it was, you could hear it leaking all the time. So I had to dig a little further and found that the O-rings were not seated correctly. These are in there pretty tight actually, even after a couple turns, so there's got to be some thread locker on there. Yeah, something or other. That's that O-ring I was talking about. So we're gonna make sure that's seated in there correctly when that goes back together. But there is some shavings on it, or in it rather, in this piece. So we're gonna clean them up, like just casting flash from when they machined that hole in there and threaded it. So we're going to get rid of that before it tears diaphragm and you have no boost, or worse, you have too much boost. Oh, this is the second gate. Here's the first one. So after taking them all apart, I'm content with them now. There was a little bit of machining flash around the little spigot threads on the lower side. So after removing them, cleaning that up, I'm pretty happy with what they look like now, and hopefully they work as good as mine have worked. I haven't had a problem with mine, and they've been on there 3 years now. So mine are different than these, but still a Chinese wastegate. When you are putting these together, you want to make sure that diaphragm, you want to make sure that does sit. Where are we? Just so you guys can see this, you want to make sure that that ring does sit in its receiving groove, and you shouldn't have a problem if it does. So we'll put this together now, and I do have a little bit more die grinding to do inside the wastegate, where the wastegate merges to the elbow on one of those pipes. I didn't line it up very well. That's the long and short of it. So there's a little bit of a lip sticking out on the wastegate merge tube that goes into the elbow. So in reality, I could probably leave it and it wouldn't do any damage. Wouldn't probably make a difference at all. But I know it's there, and that'll bug me. So yeah, even I was saying before that these screws weren't tight on the other one, and this one was no different. But I mean, what can you expect from a 8-year-old in a sweatshop, I guess? Probably the sad reality of the situation, unfortunately. So we'll give it a little snug-a-duggas. There you go. 2 wastegates, and I've got the nipples situated opposite to each other, so they will go towards the frame rail and be out of the way of moving parts. That there, here we'll get zoom out a little bit. This is the turbo flange, and that there is the wastegate merge hole I was talking about. So yeah, I mean, it's only 1/4 of an inch, 3/8 of an inch sticking up, but I mean, that's going to drive me nuts right here. I say it won't affect anything, and that's because that's like a 34mm hole, and it's a 1 3/4 inch tube. So this is, I don't know, 1 3/16 or so. So you got a big, I mean, there's a lip on the inside of that. So yeah, this here won't affect anything, but I know it's there, and that's going to bug me if I leave it. Couple minutes with a die grinder, and it looks much better. I know it's hard to see, but you can't see that big ugly fat lip here anymore, so that's good. Back at it in the garage again. We're gonna test wastegate pressure, see what the spring pressure is on these. I got no idea. I've got no info on them. Like I said, they were purchased secondhand, never used. They've been run, but never used. So I've got an old paint gun regulator, and the knob is broken off, so adjustments are a little trickier, but that'll get me a pretty good idea on, pretty close on where that gate's opening up. Just hooked up to my compressed air line, and I'm gonna spin this camera around and we'll get recording. I'm going to slowly turn up my pressure on here and watching where that valve will start to crack open. Oh, we're about 5 pounds. And it starts to lift about about 6-7 pounds. It's not a very good, not a very accurate indication, because the scale is really not small enough to see where you're actually at. But it looks like we're about all the way open there. Hoping you can see that as well, what's going on there, where it's opening. You see that valve start to crack. Maybe I'll hold it this way. Might be easier to see that way for you guys. Yeah, it's starting to crack there. Probably about 6-7 pounds. And get up to about 10 pounds, and she's pretty much wide open. Got a little air leak in there. Or that's the regulator, possibly. So there's one. Let's see if the other one behaves the same. If you don't know, you got two ports on here. One is the bottom of the diaphragm. The other is the top of the diaphragm. The bottom one just overtakes your seat, your spring pressure in there. The top one would be hooked up to a boost controller. That's your dome pressure. If this is new information to you, that's what they're referring to. So let's see if this one starts or acts the same as the other. Yeah, just starting to crack there, about the same. Yeah, we're pretty much all the way open by 10 pounds. So 10 pounds of boost on a Coyote. And if you're making 400 horse already, you're probably going to be 650 horse. So it'll be a happy truck. So now I got the exhaust just about done here on this F100. Turbos and everything here are bolted on loosely. I'll show you that in 2 seconds here. This week I really didn't do a whole lot on the truck. I got probably 2 hours worth total this week before today. Today is Saturday, just before Christmas here. We're December 23rd? 23rd, yeah. Festivus. So, yeah, I'll show you where we're at, where we left off here, and let's get watching and talking about that. So I made some tailpipes, just turn downs. Got the wastegates bolted on. I got to get lock nuts here. So yeah, they're bolted on. The gasket is in here. The little sealing ring for the valve is in there. That's all welded. So these are just TIG welded on the outside here. Inside the flange, the tube is welded 100% all the way around, and that prevents this flange from warping all the way around, like really pulling out at the bolt surfaces of the flanges. I did the same thing with the turbo flanges. They're just welded in the corners on there. But yeah, made a couple of hanger brackets here, bolted to the frame. Let's see if I can get a good view of this. They're hard to get a video of, hard to get a picture of, much less. So yeah, this one had to go around a couple of brake lines and some wiring, so I notched a hole in it, or cut a hole in it with a hole saw, and then connect the dots with the with the bandsaw. You can use a zip cut as well. Sawzall for that matter. Got some welder series exhaust mounts. They use these little snapper exhaust grommets. These are high heat, and ugly orange was all they're available in. Everything else is out of stock. So that's what we got. Let's see if I can get a picture of this side as well, a video of this side. So yeah, nice little kit. Doesn't come with this whole piece. They're just a bottom and a top. The bottoms are stainless, the tops are mild steel. That was one of the options they had there. So I went that way because, well, the tubes are stainless, and this bracket here is just cold rolled steel. So got wastegates on. Turbo is still, it's on there, but it's just loosely bolted. Again, I got to get lock nuts. We're in a small town, and our hardware selection is quite slim. I'll go to the back here. That's where the tailpipes end, and the tailpipes are not off center, but the diff is off center, so that drive shaft there really makes everything else look very off center. So we've got that. Let me find a light. Here's my light. We'll go underneath and I'll show you what I did there. Very quite simple. The truck had dual exhaust already, so I just made a couple of extension pieces and welded them on. There is a weld under this clamp. However, I can't get to the top side of the exhaust, so I did put the clamp around as well. That side is better. There's just a little gap, so I got to get another one of these band clamps, put it around there. The next thing we'll be doing is figuring out where we're going to run our intake plumbing, whether we're going to go into a Y pipe and run it under the floorboard along the frame rail and up into the cut through the inner fender, or if we're going to run a set of dual intake pipes, one from each turbo, run them one on each side of the frame rail, and Y pipe under the hood somewhere. So that's that. And here's what we're working with under the hood. There's our air meter. So we're going to be blowing through our air meter and then into the throttle body. Probably not using any of this like factory style intake pipe. So that's where we're leaving off with this exhaust portion of this build. Thanks again for following along with this build. We got a lot more to come of it because we're only just partway through here. You can find me on Facebook at Dan's Custom Projects, as well as YouTube. Obviously, you're watching me here, and I appreciate you watching me. Now, I would also appreciate if you liked, shared, subscribed, and tell your friends. So thanks for watching, and sometimes you got to figure it out your own way.